Jumping the gun. Just before the crash of Flight MH17, Russian stocks dived. As can be seen in the chart, the U.S. traded Russian ETF, RSX, plunged around 4% at the opening in New York. This opening plunge occurred at 9:30 Eastern Daylight Time. That's almost an hour before Flight MH17 actually crashed. A further drop in RSX occurred once news hit that the Malaysian Airlines passenger jet was shot down over eastern Ukraine. But this subsequent fall was smaller than what occurred at the open. Were some investors in Russian stocks aware ahead of time of what was about to happen? There's a case to be made of Russian foreknowledge of the downing of MH17. From the UK Telegraph article, Malaysia Airlines plane crash, July 17, as it happened. We see that the MH17 crash timeline began as follows. 16:15 UK time. Interfax news agency are claiming that a Malaysian passenger plane has crashed in Ukraine near the Russian border. A Boeing Malaysian Airlines, quote-unquote, a Boeing Malaysian Airlines that was flying from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur began to descend about 50 kilometers before entering Russian airspace and was subsequently found burning on the ground in Ukraine, an aviation source told Interfax. Interfax said that 295 people were on board at the time. What's interesting about this second event in the Telegraph's what's interesting about this initial event in the UK timeline is the second event in the Telegraph's timeline. 1620. The plane is thought to have crashed near Shkursk. Is this timing correct? Let's check the MH17 flight data. As you can see in the position log, the last time the position of flight MH17 was reported before it disappeared from radar was 1:20 Universal Time, which is 16:20 UK time. So the missile struck and the plane crashed just after that moment. But if flight MH17 crashed after 16:20 UK time, how is it that Russia's Interfax news agency reported the crash at 16:15 UK time? Surely this must somehow be mistaken. But is it? Let's check the UK Mail online on this point. From the article, did MH17 pilot divert into danger zone? We read the following. It's also suspicious, Dr. Soyangin said, that Russian news agency RIA Novosti reported the crash at 16:13 Moscow time, several minutes before the crash actually happened at 16:20. The plane is safely in the sky, and RIA Novosti publishes information that it's been shot down, he said. Okay, so this is very interesting. Two separate Russian news agencies, Interfax and RIA Novosti, seem to have literally jumped the gun in reporting the downing of Malaysian Airlines flight MH17. It's almost as if Russia's news services had the story ready to go and mistakenly released news of the planned tragedy before it happened. One can dismiss the seeming Russian foreknowledge of the downing of MH17 as Russian investors spooked by news of new sanctions and errors on the part of UK news agencies. But there are other reasons to be suspicious about the MH17 narrative to date.